Hey guys, how are you doing? I have come back in for a little bit and I'm going to go grab a little bit more coal just so that I can ensure that I don't run out right away. I'm just going to get one extra stack before I go and work on finishing up this trade skill real quick. I don't know. Looks like I just hit level 36, so I'm only 1.2% of the way in, and I have 11.7% vitality left. Percent of my vitality left, I should say. So I thought I would go and knock out a little bit um, of leveling in that regard. Seems like it would be a good idea to get that up some. For those of you who don't know, I went and checked out the Fallen Dynasty uh, release that happened today, and as I predicted, I was not able to pick up anything there yet. Too low level, and the Gathering Obsession quest is not out yet, so that's kind of one of the only really low level things that you can do. The other crafting that's upstairs in the building near the docks is also does not seem to be there either. There's no sign of it, so I know that all of the zones seem to be open over there. Certainly the village of Shin and Mystic Lake are there. So if you happen to be in your probably early 50s, possibly even very late 40s, you should be able to go and start picking up some quests there. And that's whether you're an adventurer or a crafter, possibly, because the Farsees lady that's by the docks, can't think of her name right now, but she was there. So this implies that you could probably get a crafting quest if you were of the right level. I can't remember what level any of that starts at, and I don't know which quests will be available, but I would go and check it out. Certainly, if I were I would say in at least your early 50s, maybe mid 50s, not really sure. For all of you out there who have hit that leveling XP wall where you just can't seem to creep over it, and that, from what I understand, happens around that area of early 50s, late 40s, you might want to go and check out the new Fallen Dynasty stuff. You can access the Isle of Mara from the Nektulos Forest docks. When you leave the Isle of Mara, it gives you options. You can either go to Nek docks or Thundering Steps docks, but it didn't find any way to go to the Isle of Mara from Thundering Steps, only from Nektulos Forest. So if you're in that area, you may want to check that out. And also, if you find any way to get there from Thundering Steps, let me know. I don't think that there is any way, but I could certainly be wrong. Also, after I'm done with this craft, I'm going to turn on my power totem because I've run out of power from doing this craft, and I would just rather not run out of power. So there's that one, and I'm going to. Ah, what a shame! What a shameful event has happened. I failed entirely. Just change into my crafting. So boom, there we go. That'll make things go a little bit faster. And let's not forget turning on the power totem. Auto consume. That's about the same as, well, okay, just to show you exactly what it's like. This increases power regen of caster by 36. This is a level 20 totem. If I had a higher level 30, which I could use at this point, then obviously it would be better. But I got that level 20, and it gives 36 power regen. My level 30 food gives 45 power regen. Those will stack, so Using both is very beneficial, and you're not in combat while you are crafting. So onward, Hiron's Angry Sonata. Gotta get people riled up about something so that they can increase their strength and hate gain. It's interesting. They're angry, and so I guess it would make sense that they would make people hate them, because a lot of times when people are angry, they certainly do cause others to dislike them as well. So I guess I can get behind that. I wasn't sure about it at first because I felt like angry is what the person is feeling, not necessarily what someone is feeling toward them. But maybe being angry can definitely make people not like you as much. I don't know if I'd go so far necessarily to say hate. Depends on what you do when you're angry, I suppose. Either way, it's I believe a troubadour. No, it's a dirge. Of course, except. But let's see here. We've got one more of those to make, and then we'll be on to Miracle Shot, which I've mentioned before is a very nice ranger spell because it lets you hit something that you don't have line of sight on. So you can target something and then go around a corner and still be able to shoot it. It's a neat spell. Calthea log done. Gotta say hi there. Alright. Now, for those miracle shots. But I think that when I get a little bit higher in my crafting, which should be pretty soon. So if I hit, say if I hit in the mid 40s, I may just go and make sure that I can't see the quests in Isle of Mara. I think that I would probably have to be level 50 for those to show up. It's been a long while since I ran into this issue, but I think probably 50. And I don't know which ones will be available. I do know that Gathering of Obsession from Quo it did not seem to be available yet when I went and checked it out earlier. I wish I could remember the name of the Farsi's Farsi's representative, I suppose, right off the docks there, because that's one that we're familiar with. Hey, Mason Man, how you doing? You have returned, and me too. I had a bit of a break myself. Refreshed my eyes and body, walked around, that kind of thing. Got a little bit done in the real world, ready to go home. Yeah. I mean, at least you're getting to watch some Twitch though, right? Well, quiet days can be good. Maybe not all the time, but sometimes. I think you mentioned you were speaking with an employee earlier today. That all work itself out? For those who don't know or haven't heard me saying so, be sure as you level up your crafting to use your knowledge book to craft from rather than the bar underneath your crafting window, because those spells on that bar do not update as you level. You can't drag from the knowledge book onto there to make them do so, unless, unless that's changed today, which I doubt. But let's make sure. Currently have oval cut right here. Let's drag it over here and see if it sticks. It did not. So, can't really do that. All right, Mason Man, I see you said, are you more of a casual player or are you pushing for the end game grind? I'm taking it pretty easy right now, I think. I'm just kind of just sort of playing it by ear. I've played for quite a long while. I think it was January or February after the game came out that I started playing, and so it's been a while, and I haven't taken like a lot of long stretches off of the game. I did prior to coming back this time. I was pretty out of it for a few years. I would still come in and check on things occasionally, reset broker stuff and whatnot, but I was not playing at all regularly or in any way seriously. But definitely, I'm just trying to have some fun and you know not stress about it or anything crazy. I don't like grind. That word right there is not one that I'm interested in. That's what I think of the live server. It's the whole thing. You get up to max level and all it is every day is just a grind without any real rewards from my perspective. Yeah, that's you saying that live is trash, and I think well, I don't like it. It's not my cup of tea. I mean, maybe somebody loves it out there. I don't know. I don't know the person who loves it, but that person is not me. It had been going downhill in that regard for a long time, and when it became just we're gonna do the same dungeon 20 times today, um, and and the whole thing is just about what gear can we get to drop, and even to make it, put a little more of a head on that. They even made it that way for crafters, which is just it's sad, right? Um, to say here's your dailies, here's your weeklies, and if you don't do them, then you don't really you can't really make anything worthwhile whatsoever for anyone at the top level. Um, everything made by a crafter unless you get these special recipes that only drop at random if you do the weekly, every week for who knows years, depending on your luck. Uh, that's pretty it's pretty messed up place to be. Honestly said before during TSO expect that this was a good stopping point for endgame. Turns out I was right. Well, yeah, it's uh, I don't know that it necessarily needed to be ended. I think that things just went in a direction that I'm not interested in, and that I think most of it seems, at least, judging by how many people came back for this kind of content, it seems that most of the people who were EverQuest players were not interested in the play style that was being forced upon us, and it was like we just didn't really have we didn't have anywhere to go, right? So even though EverQuest was just driving itself into the ground, um, even so, there wasn't a better game out there. There was not a better MMORPG with the things that we kind of wanted. And so when these TLE servers started being released, and especially this one because of what it is, started being released, everybody said, yes, that's what I want. And it's sad because we've, a lot of the people playing on this server have already played this content when it came out. And so it's like, well, I've done this before, and yet, I'm willing to do it again because it was so much better than literally anything else available right now. And it's, as I was mentioning earlier today, it seems to me that it might be something for game developers in general to pay some attention to. The fact that not only this classic server and all of the TLEs are getting so much more attention, but also the same is true for World of Warcraft, from my understanding. Classic became very big when it was released as well. So, and I, having tried out World of Warcraft, can say that at least at around this time period, it was not as challenging. It was still not as, to me, it wasn't as complex as the EverQuest 2 world was, and so that's my 2 cents on that. I feel like people should pay attention to that when they're making games, to try to make something that's, on par with what we were used to in the past. I see that you said the reason why I say that is because stat mechanics were perfect. The mythical weapon program was complemented by the shard armor sets in TSO. It was just a great stopping point instead of putting out useless content with overinflated stats. Yes, there's something to be said for that. I did enjoy the proof of the pudding that came out in, can't think of the name of it, but it was the Great Divide expansion. I thought that was very cool to give the crafters a heritage quest that they could complete. And again, it wasn't something that they had to complete. It wasn't a necessity to have that prayer shawl, but it was very nice and, as you say, complemented some of the other things. And then, the harvesting obsession was added to, and I felt that some of those additions were good. So it's not that they didn't have anything good after after TSO, but it was, and especially for the crafters, I think there was a lot added um, after that point that was helpful. It's just when they became a necessity to do certain quests, and especially when you say, hey, you can't go above this level until you do XYZ. And it was putting a cap on their ability to move forward unless the crafters adventured and the adventurers crafted. That's the point at which I really think there was an issue more than ever before. Not to say that it wasn't going downhill, because it certainly was. There was already a lot of issues, but forcing people into this certain playstyles, and especially the streamlining where everyone had to do this quest line, or you can't play dungeons, you can't play with your friends unless you do these things by yourself first. You said Destiny of Velius. Yeah, that's the name of it. Destiny of Velius was an exception to the rule. It was pretty good. But the mechanics of every player critically hitting was, every hit was dumb. Yeah, sure. Well, they were trying to add the critical hit concept into the game, definitely. Bosses having critical chance avoidance was dumb. That's when stat mechanics started flying off the rails. Okay, well, yeah. It was, I agree, another issue, and it was to force you to do the quest line without keeping you from going into the zone, I think. So it was forcing you to get your crit chance up to a certain level, and it was like a gate, right? If you don't have this much crit chance, you cannot hit this boss. So it was a solid wall for progression. So yeah, I agree that was not a good idea. Prior to that sort of thing, like during the time that this server was current, you really could do whatever you wanted, whatever your inclinations were. If you wanted to be a crafter, an adventurer, you wanted to be a decorator, or if you just wanted to go and collect all the collections that there were, then that would be something you could do. and it didn't matter what other choices you made, you could focus on something like that without any issue. I see that you said Tanae, but I don't know Tanae. What they should have done is squish the levels and stats, then they wouldn't have had to do what they did. Well, okay, one of the issues possibly was I think it's difficult to think about what the right thing to do is as a game ages. You want to have something in the game that's interesting for people to do, some way for them to improve themselves, whether that's by levels or by stats, or even by introducing a new stat. I'm not even going to say that that's wrong. But you have to do something to keep people entertained and give them something to do while you're developing the next segment, the next expansion, or the next, in this case, it could be adventure packs. They have to be entertained. So it's, I don't know. He said, WoW has done a level and stat squish, and it's been good. I don't know. I can't say. I didn't, I only played WoW for the 10-day pass back in like 2007. So I've heard things about it, but I can't, speak from personal experience beyond that. I think there are definitely ways that it could be done. I'm really not sure if there's any. I think it would be difficult to repair live. It feels like maybe they could go a different route with one of these TLEs, and then they could have both things offered. If it was this one, that would be amazing. They just continued on up, but in a different direction. How cool would that be, right? But I think it would be difficult because of how intertwined everything is. You would have to. I don't know. That would be difficult. I'm not saying impossible. Very hard to fix live. However, that's because I think there's a problem with live. Maybe, like I said, maybe there are people out there that's their playstyle and that's what they want to do. If so, I say it would not be hard to keep that and still go a different direction. I know that partially the issue is they don't really have the number of developers that would be needed to maintain that, probably, but I think it would be neat nonetheless. Just from a player perspective, it seems like it would be fun. And then you would have options. Just right now, you can do a PvP TLE server, or you can do PvE, or you can do, live. I don't know. Are there any live PvP servers right now still? Yeah, no, I agree. It would be a complete overhaul for live. It would have to start so far back in the game to be able to fix that. I can't imagine trying to do that. I feel like it almost has to continue as it is. As long as that's what certain people want to play, then, and it's worthwhile. I do, as I was mentioning earlier, I do think it's a good place for a beginning player to start, simply because the ability to play for free and test it out. You don't know if there's any live PvPs. Yeah, I haven't paid attention to live in so long. I have no idea. I do know that there's an expansion going to be released on live soon. I don't know which day that is, but pretty soon. I know nothing about the expansion though. And there's apparently some new PQs going on, I heard. And apparently they involve the crafters and everything too. But hey, now everybody's a crafter, so that doesn't mean too much. Whether they want to be or not. Oh yeah. God, okay, cool. See, I don't have a second monitor, so I can't actually tell when an ad is going to play. At some point, it would be cool to have a second monitor beyond just my phone. My phone is poor substitute for a second monitor because all I can really see is a tiny image of the gameplay, and the chat screen, which is helpful. Don't get me wrong, because I get to communicate with people, which is very, very good. But I don't get to see like who is watching right now. For instance, I don't know who they are, and I don't know. I don't get to see a lot of the statistics, and one of them is that I don't get to see when the ads are going to come up. Maybe I could keep an eye on the follower count, and when the followers go down, I know that's because there's an ad there. But at some point, getting a second monitor would be awesome. The computer that I'm using right now is a laptop, and it is not an amazing laptop. It just has it's very bare bones, and so I don't have, for instance, an HDMI slot on the laptop that I'm using. So I can't attach, and at least I know of no way to attach a second monitor without an HDMI slot, and I don't have a second monitor to attach to it at this time. I have a friend who has told me that he will supply me with a second monitor if I have an HDMI slot. So it's a whole thing. I do have another laptop that I have access to that is would be a better laptop for gaming, except that I don't have a charging cord for it, so I can't charge it up. Kind of in the process of trying to find a charging cord for that, and then I'll be able to theoretically, get the game on there, move my UI over, and hopefully, haven't checked to see if it has an HDMI slot on it or not. If it does, that would be amazing, because then I could do the second monitor and have a better gaming system to play on. Probably a better experience for my viewers. I think that, I have the graphics down on this one, down to like probably very high performance, or high performance at least. And so if I had the better system set up, then I would be able to increase the quality of the visuals a little bit, at the very least. I don't know. Hopefully, I can find that charging cord at some point. For now, I'm just kind of dealing with the setup that I have, which means that I've got this little laptop that gets super hot when EverQuest 2 is running on it, and I have my phone set up beside it, and that way I can see the chat a bit. Leveling crafting, yeah, no, it's fine. Leveling crafting, it's very. I would say brainless. It's not exactly brainless, but it's monotonous to a large degree. Oh yeah, me too. Yeah, I've got on live. At, when I was last playing, my crafters were all leveled. They had all done the heritage quests available, and so I had I had one of every subclass leveled all the way up, and I also had duplicates of a good number of them who were either finished with the heritage quests or in some stage of them. It's very fast to level on live these days. Whether it's adventuring or crafting, it's just very fast to level. Almost pointlessly so. Oh, absolutely. The crafting system in EverQuest 2 is just, I mean, it's far and away better than the next best. It's just, I mean, it's much, much better. Like I said, there are people who that's all they want to do. They don't want to go adventuring. All they want to do is craft. And that's a perfectly viable, gameplay style in EverQuest 2. If you were to say that in World of Warcraft last time I saw it, I mean, like, yeah, I just really like going and clicking a button for a second and then having something. That just doesn't seem like a viable playstyle. But in EverQuest, it's like, it's a whole thing. Definitely the best. Now, I know that a lot of people really enjoyed the crafting in Star Wars Galaxies, and not as much the crafting as it was, I think, finding the, I can't remember what they called it on there, but essentially the resources. Well, see, like I said, I haven't played World of Warcraft since 2000, I think it was 2007. And at that time, it was just like, oh, look, I have this and I have that. Now I smash them together and I have this other thing. I see that you said that it's improved, but like I said, having not played it, I can't really have much opinion on that. I'm glad that the EverQuest folks didn't ever decide to just essentially dismantle or degrade the crafting system to the point where it was like that. They did make it incredibly simple comparatively, but they didn't diminish it that much. You said you played the latest X-Packing Rated, got your ahead of the curve. So I don't know what the ahead of the curve mount is, but I'm assuming it's awesome. Is it crafting related or is it adventure related? I assume adventure related. I don't really know how how you could really do much with the crafting system on there. Not like you need to make it easier, right? I mean, maybe you could make it where it's more likely for something to happen or something like that. Needs less supplies. I guess I just think it's cool that EverQuest 2, you have to have some modicum of skill to be able to craft things. You don't have to be an amazing game player or anything in order to do it, but you do have to click some buttons, one thing I do really like is that we can have the depots on this server, the house depots, and of course you've always been able to get the crafting benches and work tables for your homes. It's very expensive, but primarily the status point requirement is the expensive part of these tables for the houses. That's why we only have one in the guild hall, for the guild house, I should say. There are no guild halls. The guild house, because they're like 498,000 status for one table. Which, to put that in perspective, at level 36, having completed 2 heritage quests and done untold numbers of writs, I'm at 187, 762. Of course, you gain more as you go up in level and do the higher level heritage quests and the higher level writs, but nonetheless, that's giving you some idea of where that stands. Okay, you said, so ahead of the curve is an achievement that is awarded to you if you clear in-game raid content on heroic difficulty before the threshold where the next raid content or patch kits released. Oh, okay, I see. That's neat. So you were a big time raider there on World of Warcraft. I used to do some raiding years ago now, and the only reason that I did it was because the guild leader basically convinced me over a period of time to come raid with him. I've never been interested in raiding. I'm not interested in the loot, really. That aspect of the game isn't something that appeals to me. And so I didn't have that reason to do it. I do enjoy challenges. I enjoy learning or figuring out strategies to things like that. So there's something to be said for that. But having to stick to a schedule and say, like, okay, everyone's going to get here at 6 o'clock on every Thursday, and we're going to go from 6 to 10 and do this consistently, and maybe we'll do Tuesdays and Thursdays these times. You've got to be here and do this, and there's going to be a lot of pressure, and it's going to be a big deal if somebody makes a mistake or something like that. Not my cup of tea, really. The one I did end up raiding with was a very cool person, and everything was much more relaxed than my other experiences that I had raiding. So I did raid with them for a few years there. Even so, even though I liked everyone and we had a lot of fun, it was still, an issue for me to an extent because of the time commitment and but primarily, more than anything, the time commitment, sitting there for hours and being again on this schedule where you have to do that, and you have a lot of expectations on you for that period of time. And I was a healer in that environment. So yeah, it was fun, but it's certainly not something that I would like to jump back into possibly ever. I wouldn't mind. It wouldn't bother me to like do a raid here and there or something like that, but to do it at that level and for that length of time, yeah, I don't think so. And I've also never met another raid leader like the one that I was raiding with, so. So are you still raiding regularly on World of Warcraft? Says, no, I'm currently on a hiatus from MMOs at the moment, playing shooter-based games and a touch of Diablo 4 here and there. See, I tried Diablo 4. It was incredibly easy, and boring. That's like, you know, when you're sitting there at the beginning of that game and you get knocked on the head or whatever, they poison you, that's what they do. You get poisoned and knocked out, and they're taking you away in that wagon, and it's just like you're sitting there for whole minutes of your life just listening to the dude singing or whatever as you're being hauled away. It's so incredibly boring. I almost died, but barely made it through that scene, to be honest. It's like, you know, I know that they're very impressed with themselves, but golly, what a unfortunate thing to have to sit through. And then just I don't know, it was incredibly. I've never played a Diablo. Okay, that's not true. I did play Diablo 1 years after it came out, but I didn't play it when it was current, so I never I never formed a big opinion on that game. Oh, another ad. Okay, cool. Good to know. But yeah, Diablo 4. Not that exciting for me. I may even still have it installed on this. No, I don't. I took, you know what, before I started streaming, I actually removed everything I could from this computer, so that I could have more room on the computer. So I don't have my Diablo 4 on here anymore. I don't really need it on here either, because it's not something I would have even gotten up in level on, really, if it was just me by myself. But some friends had asked me to play Diablo 4 with them, and we all started around the same time, and it was so incredibly easy that we didn't see any need to group up after starting with the very purpose of playing together. And when all was said and done, we all stopped playing before we even grouped together one time. See, you said, I agree about Diablo 4. It's kind of boring. I just steamroll everything. That's right. There's not much variety in the game. It's endless dungeon crawling. That's correct. It's kind of the same old song and dance. Gets old very fast. Yeah, I'm telling you. I mean, I was thinking for the longest time as I was leveling up. I'm thinking, well, okay, maybe it'll get better, right? But it turns out, no, it doesn't actually get better. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't get noticeably, okay, it gets noticeably harder, but not I mean, not to any degree that you have to use your brain at all. It's just like, oh, I have to hit a button now and then. That's different, you know? Um, and so what I was doing is I was just running into the dungeon, whatever I was being sent to, until, the quests ended. But anyway, I would run into the dungeon, go to the first boss, just run straight to the first boss, click a button, everything dies, go to the next boss, click a button. Very, very boring. So being used to playing EverQuest 2 and then going and jumping into Diablo 4 was just like, this is an incredible time waster, right? And I just don't understand really why anyone would want to do that. I guess it's pretty popular. My understanding is, and like I said, I don't know if it seems to me that the other Diablos were probably not like that because I have some family members who have told me that the other ones were much better. I see you said D4 is basically D2 remade, but easier and with better graphics and more content. Well, that doesn't speak super well for Diablo 2. I had heard decent things about Diablo 2. I haven't played it, but everybody was like, "Oh yeah, Diablo 2, that's the one, that's the best one." Well, I mean, if this is, with better, maybe it's the easier part. Maybe it's hard enough in Diablo 2 to make it more entertaining. But I can't believe it has more content in Diablo 4. It felt very sparse on content to me. If you can pretty much complete, a game in the length of time. I think my playtime on there is maybe 80 hours total. Okay, Diablo 2 is the catalyst of the franchise, so yeah, that's what I had heard. Is everybody is always like, "Oh, Diablo 2 is the one you want to play." I mean, maybe so. I definitely got a bad taste in my mouth for it with Diablo 4 being my kind of primary introduction to it. Not impressed, I did try Baldur's Gate 3, and I didn't get very far into it, but that was actually not because of the game, it was because of the group that I was playing with. Again, it was one of those things where the same group of people had been like, hey, play Baldur's Gate 3 with us, we're going to do this. So I got it and started playing it with them. And there was, I don't know, there were some difficulties between some of the people I was playing with, and so it ended up that we just didn't do that anymore. So the game itself seemed okay. I really, I think it would have been fine to continue to play that. There were, there were quests. It had a storyline. You know, um, I see that you say some people like the relentless dungeon grinding concept. I think so, and they should go play on live in EverQuest 2, because honestly, if you want endless dungeon grinding, you can get it right now, today, just by hopping over to there. In fact, you can do it all day, every day, I think, on there. It's absolutely miserable. So you said it's just not fun as an MMO. Absolutely not. Now, if there was when there's an end game, at least that's something. Like you go and you have a game that you're going to beat the game. I still would like there to be a little bit of a challenge or a little bit of an interesting story to it, or something. There needs to be something to keep my attention. I guess I'm just too picky. I don't know. And okay, let's see. There's something to be said about MMOs and why they retain more people. They're immersive and plenty of stuff to do. yes, that, and also maybe just as important or more important is that there's a community to be found on an MMO that you can't get with any other kind of game, really. Um, there are other people who have similar interests, and you get the opportunity to even if you don't speak to them personally. I know there are a lot of people who just kind of lurk, right? And so they'll read the channel chat. Maybe they'll join a guild and then not really have anything to say in the guild, but just kind of have that community feel, watch what other people are saying, things like that. And so even if they aren't participating directly in the community, they are still being influenced and entertained by the community. So that's something that's hard to replicate in any kind of game that isn't, uh, massively multiplayer. So I think that's part of the retention. You get loyalty involved. You make friends often, and you find your friends on the game that you're already playing. So you said Diablo 4 is basically an MMO. That's right. There's plenty of people on there. It's almost exactly the same mechanic. I can't explain why it doesn't do as well as actual MMOs. Well, for one thing, you don't really get the community vibe, even though there are other people playing. There aren't any any kind of guilds or anything like that. There's not a hub of, there's no housing in it. There's no reason for people to actually have to interact because everything is so incredibly easy. You don't actually need a group for anything. You don't need anybody to craft something for you because there's no crafting. And even if there was crafting, it wouldn't matter because realistically, again, it's incredibly easy. There's no need for you to have some better armor because the armor you have is so good that it doesn't even matter. So there's no interactions between the people really, and I think that makes a big difference um, in the just in the game in general, in the reception. Now it looks like after this segment of this writ, I'm gonna have to take off for a little while again, because it is that time of the day on a Tuesday. So, it was a pleasure streaming with you guys, and it was nice to chat with you, Mason Man. I enjoyed your perspectives, and of course, uh, enjoyed sharing mine, I suppose, as well. But I'll be back. I should be back later this evening. It will probably be a few hours before I make it back on. 2 or 3, I would think. But anyway, I will be back later on. And in the meanwhile, if you haven't followed me yet, be sure to follow me, turn on notifications, and you'll find out when I go live. And so, have a good evening. You're on Central Time? That's awesome. Me too. Oh, wait, I missed something here. Leave work and drive home. That's awesome. Central Time's where I'm at. So, awesome. I will see you later. Have a good time in the meanwhile, and bye for now.